For this exercise, download the poster mockup folder, and inside of the folder you'll find a photograph of a person holding a poster, and we're going to take this photograph and create our own mockup Photoshop file that will allow us to place the other three different posters or any other poster of this similar size within it. So to get started, let's jump into Photoshop, go up to File and Open, and find the holding poster JPEG. When we open it up, you'll notice in your layers panel that it's only a background layer. We need to create our own smart object layer that allows us to place any design we want to inside of it. Additionally, if you look closely, you can see that this poster has some highlights and shadows indicating a little fold crease in the middle of it. So whatever we do, we want to set it up so that we can pick up those shadow details as well. Now, to create a mock-up for this particular layout is going to be relatively easy. It's easy because our area isn't going off into perspective and it doesn't have any major harsh angles to it. Everything is nice and flat. So any kind of artwork that we place on it, as long as it has the same height and width proportions, should be able to fit inside of the area. The first thing we want to do is go to your Layers panel and let's create a new layer. And inside of this layer, let's call it the Mockup layer. With that layer selected, go back over to your Tool panel, locate your Rectangle tool. Up at the very top with the rectangle selected, choose the type of shape we're going to create to be pixels. And then finally, let's change our foreground color to something nice and bright. I like to use kind of a bright blue just to make it easy to see. With that done, we can say OK. Now all we have to do is click and drag on the top right-hand corner, in my case, top left-hand corner, drag down to the bottom right-hand corner, and this will give us our shape. If we need to make any adjustments to this shape, like if we made it too large or too small, at this time you can go up to Edit and Transform. In my case, I can scale it. I can click and hold the scale tool till I get it exactly where I want it to be, till it covers my entire poster. And we'll say OK to that. The next thing we need to do before we do anything else is to select our mockup layer and let's convert it to a smart object layer. Going up to our layer options, choose Convert to Smart Object Layer, and this will add the little icon to it and save all of this as a separate copy. Now let's create a layer mask area. Going back to our layers, turn off the visibility for the mockup layer and let's work on our background layer for now. With that one selected, we'll go over to our toolbox and I like to use the Quick Selection tool. With it, make sure you're working in normal mode. So right now I've got just the first option selected, and you may need to make your brush size a little bit larger. But click and drag and select just the paper area. Notice that I'm very carefully didn't select any of the fingers, but I didn't do a really good job. But that's okay. Later on we'll go back and we'll clean that up a bit. With the selection made, return to your Layers panel, select the mockup layer and turn on the visibility. With that layer selected, when you click on to create a new layer mask, it'll automatically mask it on. Also, while it's selected, let's go ahead and turn on the blending mode to be multiply. This will help us see the areas that are below it and mask off any other areas that we want. The last thing we need to do, with our layer mask selected, grab your paintbrush tool, make sure you've got a traditional regular paintbrush, like a soft round edge. Set your fill color to be black, and do make sure you're painting at 100% opacity. And let's zoom in and clean up any of the details around the fingers that we need. For instance, I can see right here is where the shadow isn't hitting correctly. So I want to make my brush a little bit smaller. Wherever you paint black is going to unmask it, but if you swap over to white, you can see how it will mask it, and that's actually what we want to be able to see. So cleaning up this mask will allow me to easily and quickly add back the blue area that I want, and that's what we want to do for this shadow edge. Do the same for the other side. Again, I can see a little area where I messed inside of here. Click and drag in. That looks good. Okay. With this done, now we can go through and test our design. Let's go up to File and do Save. Since we're adding on layers, we want to have this be a Photoshop file. So as far as the name, it can be called Holding Poster Mockup. We're going to keep the format as a Photoshop file and do Save and say OK. Now, if I double click on the Smart Object icon, this should open up the PSB file. Let's go up to File and Place. And let's place one of the other posters, in this case poster 1, inside of it. It's the same proportion, so we can hit Return and lock it in. And remember, whatever you save in here, so let's go up to File and Save and close it out. You can see how it automatically adds itself to this particular design. What I want you to do for each of these designs is to save each one as a JPEG. So let's go back up to File and Save As. In this case, you can call it Hanging Mockup Poster 1. Set the format to be a JPEG and do Save and say OK to the options. And repeat this process for the other 3 posters. Once you're finished, you'll also upload the Photoshop file of your mockup to your exercise page on Moodle for a grade.